Yo, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Kaz and his Ox. And in today's video, we're just going to get into it. Plain and simple, I kind of want to talk about the male loneliness epidemic and how I kind of feel like it's a little bit of horse shit, right? I'm not going to say it's 100% horse shit, but I think it's a little bit of horse shit, guys. I'm going to be for real here. Let's be for real. I think I'm not playing as Nikolai. Not today. But that's besides the point. The point really being is I think that the male epidemic is kind of a little bit of BS, right? It's a little bit of bullshit. In my opinion, I think that, like, sure, we are lonely today. And we probably are lonelier than we have been in before. Maybe that is true. I won't say that's not 100% true. But I think a part of that is a lot of ourselves' fault, right? A lot of our own faults, right? Like, what do men like to do today a lot of times? Play video games in their room all day. What do men like to do a lot of times? Goon on porn all day. Like, sure, like you could argue that like these things have been embedded into us and like kind of destroyed us because of society or this or that. But I think that a lot of us bring it upon ourselves, right? Like if you really sit down and think about it, like why are you so lonely? And are you really that lonely? Like let's be real. Like you might not have a lover, sure, but do you have friends? Do you have a family? Do you have this and that? You might not. And if it's really is you, like you are maybe someone who's very lonely, right? If you do not have all these things, right? Or like have at least one of these things, right? I'm not saying you need to have all of these things to be not lonely, but like the point being is like for me, for example, I felt lonely a lot of times for a long time, right? I have felt lonely. Like that's just something I have done. I have felt really lonely and felt like lost a lot of times in life. But like that doesn't mean that like that I was also doing it to myself, right? Like I kind of realized over time that like I'm kind of doing this to myself, right? I have a lot of different friends and a lot of different friend groups and a lot of different ways I interact with people. And I might not be the most social person, I'm a little antisocial, a little awkward, but like I'm not really as lonely as it seems, right? Like the loneliness is almost like a self-defense mechanism kind of in a way, or like a way to make myself look better to others, or make people feel guilty for me, right? Like I feel like a lot of some of us, not all of us, but I feel like some of us definitely are probably doing that, not even realizing that we are doing that. Like, I'm not saying you're doing this to be a terrible person or exploit people. No. I'm saying that like we've become lonely and we like got this in our heads, right? Because of like social media and things, and people saying like, oh, men are so lonely these days. Like, oh, men are struggling. Young men aren't having sex, and young men aren't getting in relationships, and all this and that, and like, oh, look at this girl, she's a terrible person, and like cheated on him, and this and that, and like you'll never find a girl that's like loyal or this or that. Like, yeah, sure, all these terrible things are posted online, all these negatives, and try to paint the picture that like men are lonely. It's hard to be a male these day and age. It's vastly different. It's not as easy as a boomer had it. To go to war. Come out. Feel rejoice. Have a job. Get a house. All this. Everything becomes easy. All this and that. Like I just think that like sure like some of this stuff is true. I'm not gonna like sit here and like lie to your face and like to say, oh, all of this is a lie. This is all fake. Like, go to my Discord and subscribe to this program. Like, I'm not gonna tell you all that bullshit. That like someone like Andrew Tate might tell you or something, right? But like, I'm not gonna be the facts that like I think that like stuff in the loneliness and like how hurt you feel is upon yourself, right? I think a lot of us need to realize that like we do feel these things and we are sad and stuff, but we need to take action a bit, right? And also just to realize what we have and take it more for granted, right? Like my friends is a prime example. Like I think I take for granted my friends for far too long, and I've like come to like just be like, oh, I love my friends, and like I love my friends too much to the point where like I just kind of undervalued them, right? Like I just kind of took them super for granted, right? Like I just didn't realize how much they meant to me, and especially some of them, right? Realize how some of them are actually closer than you think, right? And maybe some that you thought were close aren't as close, right? And those things could be hard to deal with and things like that. But like I think some of us fail to realize that and actually come to like really talk deeply to our friends, right? Especially as males, I think we don't ever really talk deep about things to others, right? We kind of close those off doors, and it's like, well, it's like, oh yeah, it's so hard to talk about these things. It really isn't. You just have to do it, right? Like that's just my kind of thing, right? Like someone might make fun of you for it, but if that person makes fun of you, they're just weird, and like just talk to someone else, right? Like that's just my thing. Like I felt really lonely and lost for a long time, but like one of my friends, slowly started talking to me, and we just started to get closer, and like I've come to appreciate him far more than any of my not any of my other friends, but appreciate him more than I had before, because I didn't realize how much he cared for me and how much he actually valued my well-being and my and my gut health and thing, and that just kind of uplifted me. And like I just think that like a part of it was, and like he told me straight up, like a part of it was is that like I just kind of say things and kind of just make myself sad. Like I just kind of like if someone lived my life, they would probably, or like the life I was living then, they probably would, kind of go insane, right? Like, just living this miserable, mundane lifestyle, like, you probably would feel pretty lonely and not good about yourself. And it's like kind of like, well, yeah, no shit, you feel lonely and like you feel like you feel like this, you're trapped and you're not improving or whatever, and like no one cares about you because you're not doing anything about it, and you're just like telling you that you'll just be here and it sucks instead of actually trying to improve. And I just think that's a big issue, is that a lot of us fail to like actually try to just improve it. And also I think a lot of it is just bullcrap, because a lot of us have, like I said, a lot of us have things that we don't realize we have and are taking for granted. Like, just because you don't have a relationship does not mean you're lonely. Like, I think that relationships are, I wouldn't say the most overrated thing in the world, but I think they're highly overrated in a lot of ways. Like, I think that like a relationship can be one of the greatest things in your life, but it is no necessity, right? Like, I feel like we have made it in society that like if you don't have a partner, like you are not living peak life. Like you're living life wrong. You're doing something wrong if you're not having a partner and you're not like, enjoying life with a lover. Like society I think has shaped it that way, and I just think that's the stupidest thing in the world. That like, wait, so I have to have a partner? I have to have life with someone else? Like, I can't just, embrace the fact that I enjoy being single? Like, what? I think that's just insane to me, right? It's just insane to me to think that, like, this male loneliness epidemic and everyone's so sad and want these things, but it's like, do you really even want these things, or do you just want what everyone else has or what people are saying you don't have, right? Like, that's another thing I've come to realize. I think a lot of us, and I think especially within myself, I've like wanted this like a relationship for the longest time, right? And was chasing it a lot through middle school and through high school and thing. Got rejected a lot. Never really got what I wanted out of it. And I come to realize that like I was rushing to the relationship. I think the whole time, like a lot of the girls that I was talking to or had someone interested in, I barely knew. I didn't really get to know them deeper. Never became friends with them beforehand, really, or anything like that. It was like, and they didn't really know who I was. I felt a little pushy, and like that's just kind of the vibe I like realized, was that like I was wanting something that I thought other people had, or people said that I should have, and like, what are the delicacies of this, of life or whatever. And it's like I was rushing that, right? Like I was doing something that like I wasn't ready for, or really or cared enough for, right? Or like wasn't actually, doing the right steps to achieve that goal, because I was just, oh, I'm lonely, this is wrong, I'm suffering, I need to, get on the right track and, find love, find happiness and success from it. And I think that's another thing that people don't do, and why a lot of relationships are failing these days, is that people are getting into relationships like me. They were just, they see online and like everyone's talking about how like, oh, male loneliness is this and that, and like I need to find a lover, so they talk to girls, they go to bars, go to parties, hook up with whatever girl, maybe they start a deeper connection, start a relationship, and the relationship just kind of falls through, it falls flat. Why? Because the relationship was never built on a real relationship grounds, right? And some of them are, and they just fail naturally. I'm not gonna say that, but like the point being is, I think a lot of us are like rushing life way too much, right? Like we're expecting to like, be successful be successful in your early 20s, retire in your 30s, live like, the greatest dream life there ever could be, right? But like, I think we're just all failing to realize that like it's okay to take it slower. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not follow social norms. It's okay to, realize that what people are saying is an overreaction a bit to things, and that like what you have isn't actually that bad, right? And what you're doing in life is actually really enjoyable, and you can enjoy the things you have and what you love. And I just think that that's like what we really are failing as men and as people a lot. And because of like social media and things, we just fail to realize that like we are actually fine, right? Like I have a loving family, I have internet, and I can play the game, right? What more could I ever actually want? You know what I'm saying? Like, as crazy as simple as that sounds, and some people might call that the most miserable life ever, right? Just sitting in your room all day playing video games. To me, that's a very simple and enjoyable lifestyle to me, right? And I know in my other video I talked about these endless cycles and how you shouldn't do these things, but that's a different video for that's a different topic, and that addresses other things to improve your life in different ways. But this video is just mainly focusing on, are you happy with what you have? Like, are you truly happy with what you have? Do you truly want more? Is really what I'm trying to get at here. Is like, do you really want that more that people are like promoting and saying that you don't have? Or are you overreacting a bit and kind of just falling into like, the trends, right? Like, I think a big trend, like a lot of people, for example, like LARPing is a big word that's come out. And I think a lot of us LARP a lot of things, right? And we kind of LARP bigger things than just like hobbies or media, right? Like we learn bigger things, like like some of us are like a lot of like people that are just endlessly cycling through dating apps are kind of larping the idea of actually wanting to find love, right? Like I'm not gonna say everyone is or whatever because I don't know all the situations, but like if you hear me out, I feel like it's kind of true, right? And I like the guy, people always talk about the guy who's always on Hinge, and can never find love. He's just searching on Hinge or like any dating app. I just used Hinge because that's the one I know of. I don't use dating apps, but that's the one I know of. Or Tinder, I guess that's the bigger one. But the point being, I guess it doesn't matter what dating app. He's always on the dating app, right? He's always looking for girls. He might get a hookup here or there, but he never really finds his true love. But he doesn't really, he doesn't really seem sad about it, right? He just moves on. He's like, I'll find better there, or like this or that, and it's a never ending cycle, right? He just continuously does that, and like that guy might say like, "Oh, I feel so lonely. Oh, my life sucks." But that guy might, be one of your friends, right? And he's in a good friend group. He has a good like background or whatever. And it's like, is that guy truly, like feeling this isolation, loneliness, or like, "Oh, I'm so lonely. Oh, I'm so miserable and depressed. Life sucks." Or is he really just like overreacting a bit because he can't find something that he's forcing, right? Or that he's like he's destined to get a little too eagerly, right? He's not letting some natural pieces fall into place. So trying to be more genuine. And that's why I just kind of just hate dating apps in general, because I just think dating apps don't let you really find people who are genuine and like actually find someone who you really like, right? Like you got to go out there and do like the hobbies and things you like, and you're bound to find someone that you'll like way more. Sure, they might not be nearly as hot as the girl who's like the sexy girl who posts all the hot photos that you looked for hours to find, but like she might be way better because like looks to men, I think, definitely matter. Like most men will tell you that they do care about looks in a woman. They won't just sit here and say that like looks don't matter at all. They're not gonna date someone who's egregiously ugly or someone who is they want someone who's like at least a 7 or like a 6. Like that's what they want, right? Like I'm not saying that that's what they end up with, but that's just what they want, right? And like everyone has their own preference, right? Like I might like this kind of woman, but I might like women with dark hair. He might like people with blonde hair, right? Just an example. But like the point being is that because we're so lonely, I think we're forcing ourselves to chase this high of finding a lover and getting out of loneliness, and that it will cure all our problems. And like it doesn't really, I don't think it will cure all your problems, and I think that's why so many relationships fail and you feel even worse after the fact, because you rushed it too fast. You were searching for a lover way too much, and you were like just looking and scrolling and like wasting all your, like, I wouldn't say wasting, but spending all your time trying to find love rather than making yourself more presentable and better for a relationship, to where because you were only focused on getting the relationship, you have all these other problems, and you're not perfect, no one is, and you're not at the best state to have a relationship, so the relationship struggles and can tank because of that. And like you could be in the good state and the good part, and the partner, right, the girl or like the guy or whoever else, the other partner could also be the person who's in the bad space, and that happens, and that sucks. That does suck, but things happen, right? No one's perfect, and like you have to end it on a good mutual note. And I just think that that's the thing where like just because you get in a relationship, it won't solve all your problems. And I think a lot of us fail to realize that. And that's why the male loneliness issue, I think, is talked about so much now, that so many men feel like so trapped and lonely and feel like, oh, I want to get out. I want to, I want to feel better, right? And I'm sure it will help. But I think it's like playing video games in a way. Like a lot of people use video games as an escape, right? You escape reality with video games, right? Like it's a virtual world where you could be your own character in a lot of games. Like VR Chat is a good example, or GTRP. I don't play these kind of games, but people do, and like a lot of people, I think the reason they play these games, their outside life isn't that great, right? And like maybe it is great, and they just want to be someone different, right? But like that's the thing, like you could paint yourself as whoever you want in that world, right? Or those worlds. And like there's many other games like that, but those are just the games that are off the top of my head that are very popular and everyone knows. Where like you could put yourself as a completely different person, right? You could put yourself as a different gender, which I think is a good thing of what those games do bring, right? Like I'm not gonna like sit here and like promote my political views, but I think that like people who are like trying to transition and things, a good way to like help with that is to the video games and things like that, right? To be able to interact with other people on the thing as this other gender, and kind of experience if you really want to be that, right? And I just think that's a cool way that these games bring. And I don't think these games are bad in any way. I'm not gonna hate on these games even though I don't play them per se, or but I do have an opinion that I do think that a lot of us a lot of people that are playing those games are escaping their own lives and their own reality and aren't really facing, the real challenges that they have in their real life and improving themselves, and not necessarily want to play the game for the game, and rather play the game, like I said, as an escape. Like all they think about is like, oh, I'm at work. Work sucks. I just can't wait to get home and to get on whatever, right? And this escape, right? Like my escape thing. And I've done that before too with my games and things. Like I can't wait to get home and play Call of Duty, right? I just can't wait to get home and play Call of Duty. I've said that before, during school, after school, or after work even, right? It's like sometimes I get home and I don't even end up playing Call of Duty, right? And it's more of like I just like really didn't like what I want was at hand, and I never. And I like it wasn't the fact that I actually really wanted to play Call of Duty. Like sometimes it was, right? And sometimes as soon as I get home, I boot up the game and I start playing Call of Duty, right? Or whatever game, right? And other times it's like, or a decent amount of time it's also just not that case, right? I'll just say, oh, I can't wait to get home and play the game, right? I won't even say a game. I'll just say I can't wait to go home and play the game. But then I get home and it's like I don't really want to play the game, I want to chill, right? It's just like the duality of it. Like I really wanted to play the game in the moment at work or whatever because I just work sucked, or I didn't enjoy work, or work was being like rough that day or whatever. I just wanted to get home. So I like rather played the game and escape. But but I didn't really solve my issue wasn't my issue really wasn't that I or like my want really wasn't that I wanted to play games. And that's why I'm trying to relate that to the relationship, or like that's the reason I'm talking about it. Try to tie it back to like the loneliness thing. Like, is the relationship this thing you really want? Like, do you really just feel like isolated and alone? Like if you like and I'm not talking alone in just relationship. I'm talking alone period. Do you really feel alone? Do you have anyone around you that you can talk to and interact with on the regular? Like if you do, like I don't think you are really nearly as lonely as you say you are. Like you might be lonely romantically wise, but like I don't think you need that. And like that's the thing I'm also bringing with the video game thing. It's like sometimes I don't really want to play video games and care to play. Like sometimes I say I want the video games and I want to play them, but I don't actually want to play them. Or like I know a lot of people with gooning's a thing where like people talk about post on clarity and like how like they will goon, but when they hit that post on clarity, they feel completely different about it. They honestly feel gross on what they did, right? And it's kind of the duality of you. Like in the moment, you feel eager to do this thing and you feel eager for this thing, but like after you do this thing or achieve this thing, are you really happy with it? It's like no, you were just chasing this unwanted, like you were chasing this sugar rush and like this quick like fixation that wasn't actually like a big thing. And I think that's the thing with like a lot of trends, right? Like people with trends do this thing all the time, right? Like there's like a good trend, like a good example, there was like the collecting trend, right? Like a lot of like in the early 2020s, everyone was like trying to be a collector of something, right? And you'd see all these different people and all these different things with their different collections, right? Like you had like the sneakerheads, you had the Pokemon card people, and trying to catch the biggest Pokemon collection, or like people like me, manga people, collect manga and stuff and nerdy anime stuff. Like there's just so many different like what do you call it? Like collect, like the hobby was like to trying to collect and be big into collecting. And then so many people got into collecting and wanting to collect, but they never actually realized that like collecting wasn't the thing, or they never really cared about collecting anything, right? And I think that people collect way too much than what they need to or should, right? And they have way too much of it, and it was like kind of a waste. And you don't really see people talk about it now because like like collecting's always going to be a thing. Like I'm not gonna say people aren't going to collect, but like collecting skyrocketed, right? And there was like all these different things, and like Pokemon's a good example. Like Pokemon blew out of this like Pokemon cards specifically blew out of this world, right? And now Pokemon cards are like scalped by people, and it's just a really weird hobby and trend now. It's not the thing like I'm not gonna say I grew up with like it was like base cards. Like I'm not that old, but like I like still when I was a kid when like the black and white sets were out, like like it wasn't like this at all. It was like I like the show. I collect the cards because they're cool. I never really cared for like the super shiniest one. Like the shiny ones were always cool, and I knew they had more value to them, but I never cared about them if they weren't like a Pokemon I liked, right? Like I had like a Deoxys EX or something like that at one point. It's like okay, I don't like Deoxys as the Pokemon. I don't find him that cool, right? And I never played the game he was from at the time either. So I was like, I had no attachment to him, or even knew he was a legendary. So I didn't care for him at all. And so the thing is, because I didn't care about Deoxys, I didn't really care for that card, no matter the value of it. And I think that's the thing about the card, like the thing that like people over and like populate it and ruin that hobby. Like I think Pokemon cards are cool, but I think people ruin that hobby to where like the hobbies is not like I'm not gonna put money into it because I just know it's a sinkhole now, and I don't want to go to the store and go to go to one of the Pokemon vending machines and literally have scalpers like be like weird like or like try to fight me over the cards or something. Like that's just not. I'm trying to get out of that. But like it's just things like that where like people are like crazy in some things and it's just like people are over invested into one thing than another. And like I guess circling back to the male loneliness thing, like it's just like I don't like I felt lonely for a long time and didn't realize I wasn't lonely. Like that's just kind of what I was kind of realize. And I feel like a lot of us don't realize that. And that's kind of what I want to bring out and why I was saying it was a lie at the beginning of the video. Is like, I just don't think we realize that we are actually in a nicer spot or we're not actually and like we're chasing things that we don't need. Like getting a girlfriend is nice. Like I'm not gonna tell you that like getting a girlfriend sucks. Like I kind of did earlier, but like it doesn't like suck to get a girlfriend. It's just more of like are you ready for a relationship? Like do you think you can like put up your end like give 100% on your end of a relationship? Like if you can or you feel like you can, then I think it's perfectly fine to get into a relationship, or at least 90%, right? Like I could say 100 because like it's hard to give 100% all the time. Like you won't do that all the time. But like to feel like you're at a good spot in your life, or like you don't have to feel perfect, right? Because that's another thing I have to bring up here is that like no one, there will never be like a perfect moment, right? There will never be like the prime opportunity, like right. There will always be something that's like, I guess a little negative or a little like not so great about about like a topic, right? Like it's either that be like maybe you're not, maybe you don't have the, like maybe you're not fully and like dependent like financially, right? Maybe you're still living with your parents or something, right? Or maybe you're still a little heartbroken from your past relationship, so you're not ready to like let go of that still, right? So you're not really ready to date yet. I think that's a big thing women do, right? A lot of women will break up in impulse, they'll be the rebound guy. They like to say that's the word. Like a lot of women get a rebound guy because they want the rebounder, right? They want something to fill the gap of what they just lost, but they don't really like the guy who's the rebound guy because the rebound guy is usually one of the first few guys they date, right? After the fact, right? Or one of the first guys they see or talk to after the fact of their relationship, like deeply talk to, not just like a stranger. But you get the point. Like the rebound guy, and the rebound guy gets rejected and hurt or whatever because he was a rebound, right? He wasn't actually ever her main goal or whatever, right? She just was so heartbroken from her last relationship, so she rebounded to him. So this guy gets screwed over, and that sucks. But that doesn't really that does suck and whatever, and it's not great. But like the point being is that like women do that as their like the quick fix or whatever, and I feel like a lot of men want this like quick fix to solve their problems and things. Young men, they feel like getting in a relationship just in general is like their quick fix and their quick solution. At least what I felt. I could be wrong on this. You could want a relationship or feel lonely for completely different reasons, right? And maybe I'm not hitting those reasons. So put them down in the comments, I'll say that now. If you have different feelings about it, put it down in the comments, I won't blame you for it. And maybe I'm just missing a different side of this topic. But the point being, my points of this relationship and loneliness thing is that like I always thought I was lonely, but I really wasn't lonely, and like relationships just wasn't actually the thing I needed, right? I'll be real, I'm 21 years old and I've never dated a girl ever. Like I said earlier, I've like tried to date girls before but it never worked out. I never got to the point where I could literally call someone my girlfriend. Like I never got to that stage with that single person ever. I've never kissed a girl. I've never done anything with a woman. Like I'm not like anything like romantically with a woman. I just have not experienced that in my life yet. And sure, have I felt lonely at times? Yes, but am I actually lonely, right? Is my male loneliness like a real thing? Do I really feel like lonely and isolated? No, I have, like I said before, I have friends that I really like to enjoy and hang out with, and sure, some of them probably don't care that what I'm talking about in this video, will never care about this or like provide any meaningful conversation to this topic. But the fact is that they don't need to, right? Like this topic or conversation does not need to be talked to all your friends, right? Your friends don't need to hear your issues all the time, right? And solve your problems, or other people can help you with your problems, sure. Like I will 100% agree, like you can go talk to people for help, like that's a good thing you should do. But like another thing is that like sometimes people provide other things to you than just as like as like a counselor, I guess, or like a therapist, right? You don't always need like a therapist person in your life, or like everyone doesn't need to be like, some wise guy, right? Like some people say, like I know there's like the saying where like like you want to be in a room where everyone's smarter than you, not a room where you're the smartest, right? Like you want to be in a room where you can like learn off of others and get better, not a room where you can where you provide to others. But I think that's a little stupid, right? Like I think that there's sometimes where you do want to be in that room where there's just people that like where you are the smartest because you are the person that other people need, right? Like you need to be the person that helps others sometimes in life. And also the idea that yes, like yeah, sure you want like also the idea that like you don't need to like have connections with people only because they are going to make you better, right? Like I feel like a lot of people fail to realize that in this day and age, right? Like there doesn't need to be like a crazy gain you gain from having a connection with this person. Like I don't need to be like you don't need to provide me with like wisdom where like this person provides me with wisdom, this person provides me with like my fitness goals, and this person provides me with like my financials, like things, right? Like this and that, like you have a person for this, person for that. Like these are what these people I use them for or exploit them for. I wouldn't say exploit, but you get the idea, right? Like you have these connections solely for these reasons. And I just think that like that is the thing that we as humans fail to realize and fail to actually, or we as men, I guess, more specifically, not as humans, but me as men and our loneliness thing are failing to realize that like we don't need people to like provide all of this and to like get us out of these holes. We just need people to interact with and hang out and have a good time with, right? Like if you are happy with playing video games with your friends and enjoy that time and like enjoy hanging out with your friends, why don't just do that more, right? Like if playing the game with your friends is one of the most fun you have and you don't feel lonely at all when doing that, why are you not doing that more then, right? And like sure, your friends can't hang out all the time, but like if that brings you joy, just think about the next time you're going to hang out with your friends and plan out maybe something bigger to do with your friends rather than thinking about god, I'm so lonely, I need a girlfriend, life sucks. You know what I mean? Like you could easily fill the goal with that. And like another thing is like I talked in my previous video, or I don't know which video will be uploaded first, but I talked in another video about like how we are. I talked in another video about like movies and how I go to the movie theater, and I feel like even with going to the movie theater, even though I don't know anyone there and I go to the movie theater alone, I still feel like there's still a bit of like unloneliness feeling. Like I feel like I'm a part of something because I went to the movie theater and I'm watching, even though it's the same, even though I'm not watching it necessarily exactly with this person, the fact that we are in the same room watching this movie on the big screen kind of just shows that like, hey, I'm doing something with someone, right? Like we're not friends per se or anything, and we're not like actually bonding over it, but we are still enjoying this medium together. We are doing something together, right? It's not really lonely, right? You're not lonely, right? You like this movie for this reason, they like it for this reason, you might like it for the same reason, but the fact that you are both enjoying the movie together means you're not alone, right? You're not alone in doing this, right? And I think that that's why like a lot of us feel lonely too, is that like we isolate ourselves just in general, right? Like we doom scroll all day, or we play video games all day, and we don't talk outside. We don't go outside as much as we should, or this and that, right? And it could feel lonely when you do those kinds of things, right? If you're sitting here playing single player video games or playing the video game with your mic muted all day, yeah, sure. Life could probably feel pretty lonely if that's all you do and you don't hang out with your friends and play the game. You only play with yourself. That could probably feel pretty lonely. Like, yeah, that can. But, can you fix that? Yeah, if you have friends, you can choose to hang out with them more and maybe even go in person if that's better. That makes you feel less lonely than doing it online. Or, like, also just making new friends, right? Like, people say it's hard to make new friends, but I don't think I mean, I can agree it can be hard. Like, I won't say it can't not be hard, but it also can be fairly easy as men, right? There's so many memes that people online with how easily men become friends, like, right? It's like, you don't even remember probably half the friends you became friends with somehow, like, right? You just became friends, like, you just You know, one day at school you weren't friends, and somehow, you remember a time at school when you guys weren't friends, and you remember a time at school when you were friends, right? Like, that's just kind of the thing with some people, right? And I just think that, like, how did you guys become friends? Because you were just together at that place, right? And I think that that's just the thing you got to do. You just got to put yourself there, right? Like, I've made so many friends online, like, even if you don't want to go out, right? Like, online, like, just like Call of Duty, right? I'm on Call of Duty right now. Like, Call of Duty multiplayer is the way I met so many different people, right? I might not talk to some of them now. I may not talk to many of them now, or some of them I do talk to still, right? Like, different people do talk to and don't talk to. They came and go as friends, but like, the fact is that literally I met so many kids and older people and all this, and all because I just was on the game and in the lobby, right? Like, I was just chatting in the lobby, and we played, we had a bond, and sure enough, they invited me to their lobby, and I added them on Xbox, and we were friends for that. That was it. We were now friends, and we played Call of Duty, Minecraft, whatever together. Time goes on, years pass, and I don't talk to them anymore, but they were a friend of mine, and I will never say I did not enjoy any of the friendships I had back then, right? Even though I may not remember some of them, and maybe some of them weren't maybe not the nicest to me per se. Like, I don't remember, but like, you get the point. Like, right? They weren't like maybe the best friend, the greatest of friends, or the worst of friends. They were just come and go friends. But like, the point is that like, it was so easy for me to literally just talk in game chat and be like, "Yo." And this the fact I said yo, or like, sometimes you just saying cracking a joke in the chat, right? Or just talking shit, like, part of it's talking shit, right? You talk shit to a guy or whatever, right? It just gets the ball rolling, right? And the friendship starts. Like, this could be as easy as that, and the friendship can start, right? Or like, or like, it doesn't have to be Call of Duty, right? It could be like a competitive game like Valorant or Mobile Rivals or something like that, right? Like, your team, right? You just start talking in chat, your team has good synergy, and you queue up again, right? And then that just slowly becomes a friendship, right? Like, it's just, I feel like it's so easy, especially with technology, to just meet people, right? Like, you just have such access, especially as a gamer, to just go and just meet people on the game, right? So many of these games are multiplayer, and you have to play with other people. So just turn that mic on. I've seen so many people in games that just don't have their mic on and stuff, and it's like, yeah, those are the people that probably feel lonely in life, right? They don't really talk in game. They aren't really talking to me or people at all. They kind of stay isolated and shy. Like, those are the kind of people that probably do feel lonely because they just aren't making any they are pushing to not be lonely, right? They aren't pushing to, talk to people or be interactive, right? And like, if you get anything from this video and my yapping, because I do like to yap. I will say I am a yapper, a certified yapper, Japanese as they call it in Japan. I like to yap a lot, and I think that like the thing is that like, and that's a thing that like that might be a quality that you might like, and that's why you want to be my friend, right? And maybe you hate that, and that's why we shouldn't be friends. But like, the point is that like, to solve your loneliness, you just gotta get up there and go just talk to people, right? Just go get out there and do it, right? Like, loneliness won't cure itself, right? And if you really want a relationship in that part of, and you feel lonely in that regard, you should go pursue that. Like, you should go seek that out. And all I want you to gain from this video is that like, if you get anything from this video, actually anything, it's just, all I want you to do is, the next time you're on the game, or the next time you're outside, whenever the next time you encounter someone else, I want you to just say hi, say hello to someone, and just try to, start a conversation with someone. It could be as simple as, hey, you're looking good today, right? Or like, it could be as simple as a compliment, or like in a game, hey, good job today, good job in that game, bro. Like, thanks for top frag. Thanks for carrying us that game. Something like that, right? It doesn't have to be anything deep, right? But just try to, bond with someone within a game and bond with someone closer, right? Just putting yourself out there, I think, is the biggest reason why men are so lonely, right? We just don't put ourselves out there, and it's so easy to just hide yourself, right? To just literally hide, like, curl up in a ball in your room and scroll on screens and look at screens all day and not chat with anyone on those screens, right? But I think it's so easy to not do that too, and you could even use the screen, like like, that's the thing I think is so stupid. There's so many, like, what you call it, like, internet people, I guess. Like, people call like the weird Discord mod people, like, they call them weird or whatever, and like, sure, you can call them weird, and sure, they might be a little weird or whatever, that can be true, but the point is that like, these internet people actually They could, a lot of them. I've talked to some of them before, and like, sure, some of them are weird and stuff like that. But a lot of them though have millions of friends online on Discord, right? Even though they're like this on Discord 24/7, they have friends and they talk to people and they have relationships and they have, you know, internet relationships, I will say. Like, I'm not even talking about, like, I guess like friendship relationships what I was first getting at, but like I guess they also could have like e-dating. They could e-date as well. And like they feel fulfilled, right? And they don't feel sad or lonely. Like some of them might do, but I think a lot of them also can feel fulfilled, right? And feel enjoyment out of themselves, right? And it's like they were able to be just fine. So why can't you, right? I guess the moral of the story is that like you shouldn't take what the bigger picture is, right? Like the world could say like, oh man, loneliness sucks, or like they could literally say that like, I don't know, they could say that like men hang on, what how do I they could literally say that like men men are just bad, men suck, right? And like all these sources could just say men just suck, like they could, like, right, they could just say men suck, right? And all these sources like just prove that like men are terrible, they just suck, right? But like, why do you care that what like the majority of men are, right? Like let's say they just say the majority of men suck, right? And their stats that say that most men suck, right? And there's a scale on the board and it's like, yeah, like let's say like 40% of men, maybe not majority, but like, you get what I mean. Like there's a large portion of men suck, and there's like a chart, and it says the statistics, and like this is many people suck. That's what I see online all about man loneliness, right? Like, oh, young teens or young men are so lonely, right? Young men aren't able to do this and that, right? And then there's all these different stats and like bar charts, pie charts, all these different things you see, and like they like to show the statistic of like how lonely men are or whatever, right? And like people just talk about it all the time, and I just think that's so stupid because like, just because it's like a majority or like a big thing, are you really lonely? Like, and like, if you are, can you solve it? Like, are there ways to solve it? Do you have connections to make you feel not lonely? And have you ever not felt lonely, right? When did you not feel lonely? What made you not feel lonely? And that's just kind of the vibe I want to get at, right? I said, like, you could feel lonely or whatever, and you could tell yourself you're lonely because of what social media is telling you. But, like, just because it's like the norm and what people are going through doesn't mean that you are one norm, you are the norm. That doesn't mean you are the norm. And two, just because it is the norm doesn't mean that like just because it is the norm doesn't mean you are part of the norm, right? You could be in the 60, like let's say what's 40%. Like they say 40% of young men are feel lonely, right? I don't know the sex. Well, let's just say hypothetically, that's the number they're saying. 40% of young men are lonely and like they don't have they have not had sex yet. They said statistics say they aren't doing this and that. Like 40% of men do that. All right, that's a huge portion of men that don't feel that, and like you could theoretically be in that line. But let's say like statistically there's 60% chance that you aren't in that line. So like statistically, there's a bigger percent chance that you are on that line than you are. So that's first off first off, you're off to a good start. And second of all, even if the line was bigger than that, how in the world did they know that you're on that line, right? That doesn't mean anything, right? Just because that like everyone says that like young men are lonely doesn't mean that you are, and just because you feel that you are also doesn't mean that you are. Like, because you feel this way, you might just not be realizing that you're not as lonely as you think you are, right? You might have these connections and things like that. And I'm kind of rambling, like I said earlier, I'm a yapper. I'm kind of rambling on about this, but like the point is that like it really is just it really is like you really look at your like life. Like I want you to right now look at your life and tell me, are you lonely? Like really look at all the things. Look at the relationships you have, like friendships, family, you know, partners, like romantic partners. Like look at all of those and tell me if you have none of those, if you have like you don't really have any ties to your family, have no friends or literally zero. You can't tell me that you have one friend. You have to tell me you have zero friends, and then you have no lover. If you tell me you have all of those things are true, then yes, I will tell you you're probably pretty lonely, and you probably are feeling lost. And like I said before, you need to do the strategies I said earlier. To, try to branch out. You're gonna branch out and force yourself into groups, right? Maybe not force yourself. That's a bad word, but try to get yourself into groups, right? Like I think it's just so I wouldn't say easy, but it's like it's not that hard to get into groups of friends, right? People aren't not like vicious, violent people, right? Like not everyone's gonna be like attacking you and calling you like slurs and like bad words and like banishing you from their group, right? Like 9 times out of 10, if you talk to people and ask to do things with them, they'll probably be more than okay to do something with you, unless one you're like you present yourself horribly, right? Like if you're like if you smell really bad, you smell really bad, are wearing like pretty fucked up clothes, and you're like if you look the part of like a homeless person, and like, right, unless you literally look the part of like a homeless person, if you look like a normal person, then yeah, you're fine. Like you could go approach like literally just like approach like a bunch of people, like a bunch of guys playing basketball, and go play basketball with them, or like a bunch of people are or you go out, you go to the arcade, you start playing arcade games with people. Like that's the thing I do a lot. I go to the arcade and hang out with people there and play games with them. And like, sure, I might not be the biggest friends with all of them, but like I could easily bond with them over the same median, right, and become friends with them. And like another one of my friends, he's big into rock climbing. He loves to rock climb, right? And so he like is in rock climbing clubs, and does like rock climbing challenges with people, and met a lot of his closer friends through rock climbing. And I think that's super cool for him and stuff like that. It's like you literally just take your hobby, and you'll find other people that have the interest and probably will connect with you by simply just doing your hobby. And like video games, it's like the easiest one because you can do it from your house. You just queue up online, if you join up 30 games of Marvel Rivals or Valorant or any game on that matter, that any multiplayer game, if you queue up 30 games of it, I feel like there's no way in the world, if you're talking in every game and trying to make a friend, I bet there's no way that you could not make a friend. Like I just don't think that's possible. Like I think it's just that literally that simple. Like you just have to just talk to them. And like, sure, like I said before, some of them might not be like ideal friends. You might like different things from this person, or this person might like different things from you. So it might not be a long-term friendship. But like the simple idea is that if you could talk to someone for literally a day and make them a friend, and like if you talk to someone, I mean, I don't know, it's hard to not make them a longer term friendship. Like it might not be a permanent friendship. Like it might not be like I think like in life you won't have like, I think in life there'd be very few friends that you like are forever friends. Like a friend you met in first grade that you're friends with till you're, or like kindergarten, I guess even earlier. Like a friend you met like at like childhood until you're literally like 80. Like I don't think we'll have many friends. Like I think a few, like there'll be very few people that are like that level of friendship. But like I think it's so easy to just make friends and just be friends with them for years, right? Like it doesn't necessarily need to be perfect. Like, right, I had so many friends from high school that were my high school friends, right? And I hang out with them because we were in the same class, right? And like I bet you did too. You had a lot of friends like that you just hang out in school because they were your school friends, right? But like after school, you never really hung out or anything, right? And it wasn't necessarily that you weren't good friends or anything like that. It's just more or less you were really friends because of school, and school bonded you together, and that's why you were together. But like outside of that, there wasn't much to offer, right? And like there's friends from school that I have also, though, that like willingly, we willingly, like, we wanted to play games together, so we made a Discord channel, right? And then we all joined up and started hanging out, and I have a bunch of friends from high school that I still talk to this day, and I think that's cool, right? And like the thing about the loneliness thing is that like I think that we are just putting it on ourselves. Like I said earlier in the video, like we are literally just we like if you feel lonely, like just you literally get up and try to make friends. Like just go do that, bro. Just go do that. Or if you want that relationship, bro, go do that, bro. Go to coffee shops, go to your favorite activity, like I said, like whether it be rock climbing, sports, video games, like go to the arcade, like go out to these kinds of places, find people that are interested in these things, and I bet I swear to you, you'll probably find people you'll connect with. And I just think that we just aren't like, I think the problem is with the male loneliness epidemic is that like we aren't telling men to do this, right? We're just saying how depressing it is and how sad it is, and we're addressing the depressing part of the topic rather than like the meaningful part, where it's like, yo, like, how do we not do this? How do we not become lonely? How do we solve this issue? How do we find relationships? How do we find friends? Like, we don't talk about how easy it can be to do these kinds of things, and rather we just sit here online and address the negatives. And that's why I just think a lot of us need to just get off the internet, honestly. Whereas I talked about using the internet to make friends, like, yeah, it can be a good tool, but I just think a lot of us spend way too much time on it, and like that also is probably a reason you feel so lonely. But that's for a different video, I guess. The difference between physical and like physical relationships and just online relationships because they could feel very different. Like they just can. But I think that's where I have point with the video. We have, oh, hang on. Let's get, before we end the video, let's get the 666 kills, you know? I think it'd be funny to get the 666 kills. All right. Oh, we got 6-7. Oh, well, 6-9. Wait, yes, 669. That's a perfect way to end it. 669. All right, guys. I think that was a good enough video. I kind of rambled on there at the end, but you get the point I was saying. So go out there, go make some friends, go chase and find that girl that you wanted to love. It's not that hard. Life is actually not that bad. You'll get through this. As always, guys, have a good day. Bye-bye.